Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Underworld, Rise of the Lycans. This is a surprising prequel in the Underworld trilogy, the first in the three, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting to see a prequel in this franchise because the stories of the first two Underworlds were progressing pretty well. I thought we were going to get a continuation of the current story that we had from Underworld Evolution, but nope, they went back to a prequel. Now, I think it's a good idea now because it's been quite some time, but at the time I thought, why were they doing that? And the only explanation I can think of is that Kate Beckinsale didn't agree to come back for a third Underworld movie. Of course, she came back for later movies, but at the time, maybe she just declined and she didn't want to do any more, or she asked for a certain pay and they declined it and they just didn't ask her back. So they brought in Rhona Mitra, who she played Sonia, but she was like the Celine role in this film, and I thought she was probably going to be one of the main characters. She certainly was a main character, but she wasn't the main character. They brought back Michael Sheen, who played Lucian in the first movie, and he had a little cameo in the second one as a dead body. But he was back as the main character this time as Lucian. So in this one, we were supposed to feel for the Lycans. In the first two movies, we knew more about the vampires, but in this one, we saw it from the point of view of the Lycans. In the first one, Lucian was a bad guy officially, but as the movie progressed, we learn a little bit more of his backstory and we find he's not really a bad guy, he's just doing bad things to get back at the even badder guys. And this film is about his journey and the reason why he was doing these things from the beginning. I read online that they weren't going to cast Rhona Mitra as Sonia because she reminded the filmmakers too much of Kate Beckinsale, and somebody pointed out, well, that's the point, because in the films, Sonia and Celine were supposed to be alike. Victor took in Celine and he didn't kill her because she reminded him of his daughter, Sonia. So it makes sense that both of them looked alike. I think when you watch it as an audience member, you're like, oh, she looks like a cheap knockoff of Kate Beckinsale. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was for them, or for us, to be reminded of Celine just like Victor was reminded of Sonia. This one's another Romeo and Juliet story. You've got the Lycans versus the vampires. Someone from the Lycans loves someone from the vampires and they have to hide it from each other and hide it from everybody because it's forbidden. Lucian is a slave after all, and if Victor, Sonia's father, found out that Lucian was seeing Sonia, then he would have killed Lucian. But things got worse because we find out that Sonia was pregnant with Lucian's baby. We kind of knew that anyway, but we find out throughout the film that she was carrying his baby, and instead of just killing Lucian, they decided that they were going to kill Sonia and then kill Lucian after it. They couldn't do that. However, Sonia did die, and that caused an uprising, sort of like the beginning of the major Lycans versus vampires, because up until this point in the film, Lycans were only really used as slaves and watchers and protectors over the vampires, but Lucian started the whole fight against the vampires, all because of what happened with Sonia. This film clocked in at under 90 minutes, so it's a short and sweet movie, and I kind of like that because the first two Underworld movies, I'm not saying they're bad, but they kind of dragged at times, especially with interactions with Michael, whereas in this one there was no Michael, so it didn't really drag, and the film did last less than 90 minutes as well, so it was a fast-paced movie. And something that I liked about it was we already knew the backstory before getting into it. I think seeing it unfold made it quite enjoyable because we as the audience knew what was going to happen, we knew the outcome, we just really wanted to see it unfold. And also with a prequel, it gives us a good excuse to bring back characters who were previously dead. Like the little servant guy from Underworld Evolution came back, Victor obviously came back as well, so seeing these characters return, maybe with a redemption arc as well, with Lucian and his right hand man, the big black guy. Those guys seemed like bad guys in the first movie, but seeing them coming back for a kind of redemption arc, which wasn't really a redemption because it happened before, it was quite pleasing on the eye. I always talk about the CGI in the Underworld movies, and this being the third one in the franchise, It didn't have the best CGI. I think the CGI still looks very dated for its time. And when you compare it to the CGI from the first two movies, it hasn't really progressed much since Underworld Evolution. It hasn't evolved much since Underworld Evolution. So I think the CGI wasn't the best. It was probably the worst part of the film, but it didn't take away the story from the film. If I have to point out one standout performance in even the entire franchise up until now, it's Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen absolutely shines. Michael Sheen shines.
Mr. Sheen shines up things clean.
He absolutely shines as Lucian in this movie. I was intrigued by his character in the first one because they gave us just enough to be intrigued by him, whereas in this one they fully flesh him out. Sometimes I don't like it when they flesh a character out too much, where there's nothing left to the imagination, but in this one, because we already knew the backstory, I think fleshing his character out was fantastic because I loved him even more. I honestly never thought I'd want a prequel to the Underworld franchise until I actually saw it, because I loved Kate Beckinsale, and I think the movie stood on its own 2 feet without Kate Beckinsale, without Celine. I didn't think it could, but it certainly did with Underworld Rise of the Lycans. And because of that, I thought if they do any Underworld movies in the future, they don't have to rely on Kate Beckinsale. They obviously did, that's the route they went back to eventually, but it just shows that you could still have an Underworld movie in the future without Kate Beckinsale. So what are your thoughts on Underworld Rise of the Lycans, guys? Did you expect a prequel to come out? And when you found out that it was going to be a prequel without Kate Beckinsale, were you thinking, oh, this isn't going to be good? But anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back. What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the